Jose Mourinho just became the coach of Real Madrid, and I hope Amazon makes a documentary of them next season, because Mourinho vs Vini vs Mbappe is about to make Real Madrid the new Hollywood FC. So, what is Hollywood FC? Let me give you a quick history lesson. The Hollywood FC tag, it's like a virus that comes for big clubs. First it was Bayern in the 90s, then it came to Manchester United during the Paul Pogba era. Today, I give you the new Hollywood FC, Real Madrid. But how did we get here? Let me take you back to life before Mbappe. 2 seasons ago, Real Madrid was Vibes and Friendship FC. Jude Bellingham was bagging 23 goals and becoming a household name. Modric and Kroos were like the two UNCs holding the young boys together. Vinicius Junior and Rodrygo were terrorizing defenders. But wait, where the hell is Rodrygo? Alright, even Joselu turned into prime Raul for 2 minutes against Bayern in the Champions League semi-final. And this Friendship FC helped Real Madrid to win their 15th ULC against Dortmund. The vibes were immaculate and everything looked perfect. So Florentino Perez looked at all of that, he looked at the trophies, he looked at Friendship FC and decided it was time to get Kylian Mbappe from PSG. We all know that Kylian Mbappe has been Florentino's white whale for a long time. The man has been obsessing over Mbappe like a teenager. And finally, in the summer of 2024, Mbappe arrived in Madrid on a free transfer. And ladies and gents, Galacticos 2.0 was officially open for business. And just like that, the Mbappe regime as the dictator of Madrid was in full effect. But here's the thing nobody really planned for. Kylian Mbappe wanted to play on the left. Vini Jr. wanted to play on the left. And as a result, the team chemistry was all over the place. Even though Mbappe didn't score much in the first few months, his form was gradually coming back with time. But something was broken at Friendship FC. Bellingham looked worse than the previous year. Vini went from being the undisputed heartbeat of the team to a passenger trying to find his way. And as for Rodrygo, he just completely disappeared. And while the football was getting worse, Raul Asencio, the so-called next Sergio Ramos, got himself tangled up in a case because he shared a sex tape involving a minor. Okay, let's be serious for once. Real Madrid obviously tried to push the scandal under the rug and continued pushing back Asencio back into the senior team. But since the case is still ongoing, I'll keep my comments for now. So, over to the horizon on the Ballon d'Or ceremony. For some reason, everybody already assumed Vinicius would be the winner. But shit really hit the fan in 2024 October when Fabrizio Romano announced that Vini Jr. would not be the winner of the award. Boy oh boy, this news sent the entire internet on fire. Real Madrid had built an entire run-up to the ceremony around the assumption that Vini Jr. was about to be crowned. Vini was inviting his family and friends, his agents booked the flights, and the plane was on the tarmac about to take off. And to the shock of everyone, Real Madrid released a comunicado official announcing that the entire club delegation would cancel the trip. Incredible, I get the frustration. Not like Rodri was the standout player or anything, but that hissy fit by the entire club was just so bizarre. To add to the drama, Vinicius now went ahead to tweet that, "I'll do it 10 times over." And just a few weeks after that, Real Madrid TV decided to start a full-time war with the entire Spanish refereeing community. Every week, the club's broadcaster was producing compilation videos accusing officials of corruption, favoritism toward Barcelona and Atletico, and conspiracies involving VAR. And it didn't help that Real Madrid limped through the rest of the 2024-2025 season without a single major trophy, which was already a crisis in itself for a club of that stature. The animosity towards the referees continued to escalate until that Copa del Rey final between Madrid and Barcelona. You know the one I'm talking about, the one with referee Bengoetxea. Days before the game, Real Madrid TV produced a documentary hit piece on Bengoetxea, which made the referee give a press conference and break down in tears because his young son had been told at school that his father was a thief.
Y hay niños que le dicen que su padre es un ladrón y llega a casa llorando, eso es muy jodido. Lo que hago en mi caso es intentar educar a mi hijo.
And how did Real Madrid respond? They skipped the press conference. They skipped the open training session. They refused to attend the RFEF banquet. They told their own coach and Modric, both due to face the media, to stay home. They eventually played the match and lost to Barcelona. But instead of taking the loss in peace, the players decided to berate the officials and scream insults in their faces. Of course, Rudiger was on the scene of the crime as well as Bellingham. All this drama was too much for Ancelotti because at the end of the season, he decided to leave the club of crybabies and head over to Brazil to become the new coach. So in came Xabi Alonso. Fresh off going an entire Bundesliga season unbeaten with Bayer Leverkusen, Alonso arrived with his iconic 3-4-3 system with rotating inverted fullbacks, the same thing he did at Leverkusen. But right from the start, this formation looked like it was never going to work. Cause what do you mean you want Mbappe and Vinicius to press and track back on defense? That's not happening. The first sign of trouble came when Alonso decided to bring Vinicius off during an important game. Vini did not like that at all. He was ranting and gesturing like Alonso had insulted his mother. Just absolute disrespect on the live broadcast. You can watch our video about why everyone hates Vinicius Junior. But back to the story. Behind the scenes at Real Madrid, the leaks started. Bellingham wasn't happy, Camavinga wasn't happy, Valverde was not loving his new role at right back. Half of the senior players backed the manager, the other half wanted him gone, and as a result, the dressing room was split down the middle. The losses and bad performances kept piling up. A 5-2 collapse away at Galacticos in September was a bad one, especially to your Swan City rivals. Then it got worse when they lost 2-0 at home to Celta Vigo, with 3 of their own players being sent off in the same match. The rumors of Alonso's dismissal started coming out from the socials and the fans. You and I already know that when things get to that level, Alonso was already a dead man walking. Then the breaking point arrived in January 2026 at the Supercopa final against Barcelona. After Barcelona clapped Madrid once again, Mbappe and some senior players walked past Alonso without acknowledging him. Mbappe even waved the players off when Alonso asked them to stand and applaud Barcelona. 24 hours later, Alonso was gone. But by then, the Real Madrid civil war was already brewing and people were taking sides. So basically, Arbeloa inherited a shitstorm way beyond his powers. The dressing room split that had been bubbling under the surface immediately broke into public view. Mbappe, Courtois, and a faction of the senior squad were reportedly furious that Alonso had been sacked. Vinicius, Bellingham, Camavinga, Valverde, and others joined the other side. Now the players who had been quietly undermining the manager were openly at war with the players who had been backing him, and the manager was no longer there to mediate because he had been replaced by Alvaro Arbeloa, who was the Castilla coach. More bad news followed almost immediately when Real Madrid lost in embarrassing fashion against Albacete in the round of 16 of the Copa del Rey. This was one of the most embarrassing losses in recent cup history, up there with Manchester United losing to Grimsby. The drama continued because fast forward to February 2026, Vinicius Junior was once again the victim of alleged racial abuse. This time from Gianluca Prestiani, who pulled his shirt over his mouth before saying something to Vini that caused Vini to refuse to play on. The game was halted for 10 minutes. Mbappe later told Spanish TV that Prestiani had called Vini a monkey 5 times. After the game, Jose Mourinho gave a press conference in which he said that Vini had provoked the situation with his celebration. Then, in classic Mourinho fashion, he reminded us that the biggest person in the history of the club was Eusebio.
Then was when he was arguing about racism. I told him that the biggest person in the history of this club was black.
I still can't believe that Mourinho gave us the 2026 version of I Can't Be Racist, I Love John Barnes. Back at Real Madrid, things were getting worse by the hour. After Mbappe injured his left knee against Celta Vigo, the medical staff sent him on an MRI scan. The scan came back clear, only for us to find out later on that Real Madrid's medical team had scanned the wrong knee. How can such an institution with world-class doctors and medical equipment scan a player's wrong knee? I swear at this point you can't make this stuff up. By April, Real Madrid was still hoping for some magic in the Champions League quarterfinal against Bayern. They tried, but Bayern was just too good for them. And with the second leg almost over, Eduardo Camavinga got himself sent off in injury time, which prompted Arda Güler and Dani Carvajal to shout and scream at the referee. Now they only had to focus on the league and stop Barcelona from winning the league back-to-back. Domestically, Madrid all but conceded the league title when Hector Bellerin of all people scored a 94th minute equalizer against them at Real Betis. Behind the scenes, Raul Asencio and Dani Ceballos were angry with Arbeloa for not including them in the squad. Leaks were flying up and down from the training ground and everyone was pointing fingers at each other. Which brings us to May 2026. Which has been one of the most absurd months in the modern history of Real Madrid. And I want you to follow this carefully because it really did all happen in the same calendar month. So we start with the dictator himself, Mbappe, who was supposed to be rehabilitating his muscle injury, instead went on holiday to Sardinia with his girlfriend. Then some paparazzi idiot released the photos of them on a yacht in the Mediterranean while the rest of the squad was actively grinding out a league fixture against Espanyol. The backlash was so bad that the Mbappe out petition reached more than 40 million votes. That has to be, for me, the most votes received by a non-political online petition. Inside the building, reports leaked that Mbappe was only talking to the French-speaking players in the squad. He also liked and then quickly unliked a social media post linking Jose Mourinho to the head coach position for next season. Yes, that Mourinho, the one who had just been calling Vinicius a provocateur and lecturing about Joselu's legacy 2 months earlier. And then, just when you thought the dressing room couldn't possibly be in worse shape, we heard the Fabrizio bomber that Captain Federico Valverde had been hospitalized after an altercation with Aurelien Tchouameni. Valverde reportedly had a head injury and was briefly unconscious. The story was that both players got into a fight one day after an argument, and Tchouameni punched Valverde and almost knocked him out. Madrid has fined them and denied that any fight happened. But we all know that there's no smoke without fire. Almost at the same time, Antonio Rudiger slapped Alvaro Carreras on the training ground. Carreras, who was also reportedly beefing with Arbeloa. At this point, every part of the squad has been involved in the leak, a fight or a public meltdown. Everybody was here, kung fu fighting. And in the middle of all this, with the season collapsing around him in real time, Florentino Perez decided this was the perfect moment to call an emergency press conference. The expectations were sky high. Maybe he would announce Mourinho's return. Maybe he would sack Arbeloa. Maybe he would resign. He did none of those things. Instead, the 79-year-old sat at the podium for the better part of an hour and produced one of the most unhinged single performances any club president has ever given. He announced he was not resigning. He announced the club would hold elections. He attacked the newspaper ABC, which his own father had once subscribed him to, and cancelled his subscription on live television. He attacked the journalist Maria Jose Fontalamo and said he didn't know if she even knew anything about football. He addressed rumors that he had terminal cancer by saying that if he had cancer, he would have been admitted to an oncology ward. He accused a media company called Vocento of running an entire digital newspaper, Relevo, purely to attack him, and claimed it had lost 25 million euros doing so. He announced that Real Madrid was assembling a 500-page dossier of evidence regarding the Nigeria corruption case, in which Barcelona had paid millions to the former vice president of the Spanish referees committee, and that this dossier would be delivered to UEFA at the end of the season. He claimed that 7 league titles had been stolen from Real Madrid as a result of that corruption. He said, "They will have to shoot me to get me out." Bear in mind that Perez did not, in any way, shape or form, address the dressing room implosion or any of the other issues. That, my friends, is where we are. Real Madrid is the new FC Hollywood.